carry a song of joy in your heart, and may we all be one. Thank you, and good night.
In Black Ops, when there's a dark program, it is completely compartmentalized to where no one receives any intelligence. The other secret space programs received very little information about the Dark Fleet's mandate, what they were up to. Their bases were completely autonomous. Other secret space programs did not get to go to their bases. Their craft were of a different design, usually. They had several different types of vessels that you saw, that you would see, that you would associate with them. Yeah, and one of them is a very large wedge-shaped that is very much like Star Wars, the destroyers, I guess. Very much like those, but they're a little bit more sleek. There's also a very large diamond-shaped vessel that they have. They have a very large pumpkin seed-shaped vessel, over 600 feet across. But those are smaller than the large wedge-shaped vessels.
There was one, well, I won't say one time, the first time that we observed a draconian dropship come into a battlefield scenario, and the indigenous reptoids turn on them, turn their attention towards them and move towards them, and essentially engage in a style of combat that was unlike anything that we had ever engaged with them before, unlike we'd ever seen them do before. And I would say within 2 minutes, that entire dropship and everything that was on it was dead, crushed to rubble and particles, and the entire ship was brought down to the ground and shattered in 2 minutes. I mean, it was the fastest thing I'd ever seen, and it was just back and forth, and they were mowing the lawn, and I was like, oh my God, what is happening here? And then we all took a step back as the ship came down and parts started to flow everywhere, and then they just walked off and they were done for the day. And the insects walked off and they were done for the day, and we waited for our commanders to tell us, okay, go home, we're done. They hate them with a passion, and they consider them to be an invading enemy that they will destroy unto dust. For not quite 5 years that I was there, they didn't really show up, and then they started to show up and became a concern, and then I would say within a pretty short period of time, within that year, it became clear that when they showed up, it was, you know, we would basically band together and attack them. And then the more and more their efforts became sort of serious, the more we kind of entered into this cooperative effort, which really is what led to the ending of, you know, cessation of hostilities and ending the war and so forth, was essentially coming to a place of working with them to get rid of a common enemy, which basically just, you know, let everybody bury the hatchet, so to speak. And I can tell you that if they wanted to continue testing military technology, the southern tribes are still very hostile, have no intention of making friends with anybody. They have a very, very, very simple attitude, which is you are either worthy to fight or you are worthy to eat. If you're not worthy to fight, then you will be eaten. And so, you know, if you wanted a hostile group to test your military technology on, they're always going to be hostile. So, you know, they probably just as well move, you know, their testing. Whatever was going on up north, you know, we eventually had a peace agreement and everyone made friends, and, you know, it all kind of ended. You know, I've seen the drop ships do tend to be a little do tend to be like a wide teardrop, but I've also seen ships that were like polygon shaped. I mean, they were oddly angular polygon shaped, which was peculiar. I don't know what else to call them but peculiar. But Yeah, none of them. The only other thing that I can say about them is that in the weirdest sense, everything seemed to kind of ooze evil. When you're looking at, their technology, and as they sort of disembark off the ship, I mean, you really can just see this sort of collective dark evil that just sort of comes off of them, and it's just kind of creepy. You're instantaneously sort of disturbed and bothered by it. I'm sure it has a lot to do with their psionic makeup.
All we've really known about them is that they fight, they're an offensive force. They are for going and doing offensive type of work alongside the Draco. They go outside the solar system on, I guess, conquest or defending Draco territory, helping the Draco on military expeditions. The ICC has helped them build out a lot of this and these vessels and weaponry, and then the Draco group has helped them enhance it even more so for offensive duties outside of the solar system. And they spend almost all of their time completely outside of the solar system. And we hadn't received, we knew of, there's one of their bases on the moon that is quite a ways from the Lunar Operation Command, that is a kind of shaped like a pyramid with the top chopped off. And it's been almost impossible to get good intelligence about what's going on there. The Dark Fleet is completely human ran. They do answer to and work alongside the Draco Alliance. They're allies, and they go out and they do offensive battles and offensive expeditions together outside the solar system. We assume that it's conquest or keeping certain areas secure or reined in their empire, but we really don't know. It's been very difficult to get information and intelligence about the Dark Fleet. And there's been a few defectors from the Dark Fleet that were stuck inside of the outer barrier that was erected. Most of the Dark Fleet was stuck outside. So, and whatever information has been gleaned from those defectors, I have not heard. So they have been a very large mystery. Yeah, command control and communications were still here, and a lot of their operational forces were outside doing what they do when this outer barrier was raised. So they became stuck outside of this field around our entire solar system that is way out past out where the heliosphere is, out past the Oort cloud. It's huge, and they can't come back. So the structure that was here has somewhat been cannibalized into the ICC and defected to the Alliance. They were very distinctive. A lot of the times they usually, it's almost out of Star Wars again. They looked very stern, very arrogant, like they felt very elite. They wore black stormtrooper kind of clothes, just very stern, like very totalitarian acting. And a lot of the people that ended up going into this program came from a lot of the German secret society, Nazi kind of programs. A lot of them and their ancestors are people that were born later on after these breakaway civilizations occurred, have joined. I would assume that they are 100% vested off-world.
Where are we from? The dark side of the moon!
I'm sure there are women, but I personally only saw men. Yes, they're very regimental, very totalitarian, very, the energy you feel from them is very unnerving. They They don't feel like pleasant people at all. It's a human, completely human fleet that flies in support of and alongside the Draco fleet. There's a lot of mystery about, that has been so compartmentalized about the Dark Fleet. That is one of the biggest secrets still remaining, even within those in the Secret Space Program Alliance.
Just before this mission occurred, the war was over. A war which I had spent, 17 years as a part of, but had started way before I did, that my understanding raged for over 25 years. When that was over, we had actually signed treaties with the native reptoids and the native insectoids, and had recognized the invading reptoids as the bad guys, and it all got together and again signed a treaty and, ganged up on them 3 against 1 and drove them completely out of the Martian sphere for good. And that was huge. That was just, a big applause moment. And we essentially got told, that, okay, we need you guys to, go into this reptoid hive, which is supposed to be a much older site that's supposed to have, artifacts that are really, really old that the scientists want, which is not uncommon for them to locate or find some area or ruin that had some old archaeological facets or technologies or something that they would send us in to try and extract or get. And sometimes it would be just junk, and sometimes it'd be interesting, weird stuff, and sometimes it would be, oh crap, there's a nest of them here. And we'd, run away and try to, because we didn't bring enough guys. And instead of ending the war, they were like, okay, go get this thing at this site, and we're going to send 4 divisions. We're sending 1,000 of you, which is pretty weird to send 1,000 guys on a, go pick up an object kind of mission. So most of us thought that was pretty weird, and most of us had a bad feeling about what we were doing, and most of us thought, no, wait, we don't want this to be misinterpreted. We signed a treaty with these guys, and we ganged up on the real bad guys with these guys. Do we want to risk that, by sending 1,000 guys into one of their older, more ancient, temple sites that they've asked us not to go into? They're really going to receive that very well. And so some of us were concerned, and I certainly, being a senior enlisted person, protested to my command officers and to the command staff, and I protested to the old man. Used whatever weight that I could with him to say, look, I don't think this is a good idea. I think this is dirty. I don't think that we're going to make out with this, and we should know better that meeting these guys in the field, that they hold back, 9 times out of 10, that if they really come at us and they're mad, we're done. They're really powerful warriors, and most of the time they really fight in restraint, because if they really came at us with barrels, it'd be over too quickly. It's no fun for them that way. But knowing that, I was not really interested in walking into whatever we were walking into. But the old man really agreed with me that he didn't like it either. He said, I got my orders. And he said, now you got yours. And, just do what I know you do best, and get in there, get your job done, and get out, And if there's a problem, get out. And, I trust you to command, your people, and I trust you to be a top guy, down there on the ground. And I expect, that I can't be there, and that's why you're going to be there, and that's why I hope that this isn't going to go as badly as I think it will either. But, it was just, all I got our orders, go do it. So, did, and we essentially had to come at this sort of large underground site through a series of tunnels and caves that kind of went down to it, and we didn't want to send everybody through one direction. Plus, that would have bottled me up in these sort of smaller caverns that you couldn't fit more than 6 or 8 guys across. If you got 1,000 guys, that makes crowded hallways. So we tried to keep as many different directions as we could. and sure enough, get into this main domed, building area, which essentially is just like standing inside, something like the size of the Superdome, or the Astrodome or whatever, some kind of domed sports arena. It's just that big around or so. And we all kind of got down inside and, we're trying to, communicate with HQ to figure out what to do next. And that's when all the communications went dead and our radios and our signals were jammed. And we all started looking around each other like, oh, this can't be good. And then all around this large domed room at even intervals, what appeared to be rocky surface became doorways. And I'm not sure whether there was, kind of a solid holographic or not a solid holographic, but what looked like was solid wall all of a sudden was not solid wall and was, doorways going all the way around this room, and like streams coming out of, a drain pipe out of each hole just comes floods of these very large, very mean, very angry Martian warriors waving around in both hands large bladed weapons. And they just started moving around and surrounding everybody and moving in a big circle and spiral and just swinging and hitting. And the outer circle of all of our people just started dropping and being cut and cut. And just tried to pull in and try to get some distance and keep trying to some kind of manage to fight or defend them. But no, it was just being caught inside a blender. By that stage, had developed, or their eggheads had developed a localized wormhole technology. So a lot of our transporting of troops at that stage in the game was being done by sort of a localized wormhole phenomenon. But they had completely jammed our ability to communicate. We're jamming our ability to send localized troop transport wormholes and get us out of there. Someone managed to get their radio going correctly, or managed to get another signal on another frequency so that they were able to connect to HQ and try and communicate what was going on or what we should do and what was happening. And they kept telling us to stay put, like we could do anything else, and that any minute now they would have figured out how to get the wormhole back open and get us out of there. Well, what happened is they could not use the localized troop transport wormhole phenomenon, so they had to use the large ship transport wormhole phenomenon, which created this large ship-sized wormhole right above us and sucked up the survivors, who was left at that point as the circle kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then whoever got caught in the event horizon of that ship wormhole was sliced right off wherever they touched the event horizon. So the next thing I know, we're on the med bay pad and the medics coming in. And my best friend is on the ground, and all I can see is her top half and just liquid coming out of her so fast, and she went pale so fast and lifeless so fast. All I could do was scream, medic, I need a medic over here. I got people dying. And it was chaos, and everybody died except, the 35 or so of us that didn't. And my understanding was that this was a dumb, command decision by people at the MCC who wanted whatever this thing that they felt was so special that they wanted and were willing to violate treaty space, what we had already decided was treaty space, by sending in 1,000 guys to their death.